and potential violations that these facilities are known for. The standard permit requirements outlined by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality for plant operations may not ensure high environmental standards. We are currently putting these permits under a microscope, and we will make sure that recommendations are made to the TCEQ that permits of this sort are more stringent in their requirements. There are safeguards that need to be made to protect our local air, water, and solid waste, and our soil. As mentioned, the proposed construction of this facility near this hospital is egregious. It is an amenity that residents use right outside of here as well, as known as the hike and bike trail. TCEQ needs to seriously consider the potential adverse effects that this facility will cause on the community and the well-being of its residents. For nearly 4 years, my department has worked diligently to build a robust concrete batch plant program, which specialized investigators and high-end detection equipment. The most common thing that we see when we look at these kind of facilities are such things as noise, dust, and fugitive emissions. The resulting poor air quality from harmful particulate matter that goes into these communities pose a threat to the entire community, especially those vulnerable individuals like children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing health conditions. The TCEQ's own regulatory monitor located at Wayside shows that there is a high incident of particulate matter that is already present. This monitor was installed in 2021, and since 2021, each year, the annual average has exceeded the NAAQS standard. There are potential nearby waterways that also serve to be impacted with stormwater. With a facility of this type being near a hospital, the increased dust and air pollution may create hindrances on the hospital's ability to create a safe and healthy environment for the patients that they serve. Pollution Control has an environmental engagement program in place to help residents advocate for themselves and the needs of their concerns. In addition to our comment letter that is going to the TCEQ, we'll be reaching out to residents in the area to help them be able to make a comment to the TCEQ about the impact of this facility so that their voice is heard. Pollution Control will continue to engage with the TCEQ so that we are supporting the communities and advocating on their behalf. We will also march in lockstep with the Harris County Attorney's Office to continuously demonstrate transparency on our enforcement activities. Thank you and have a great day.
I'm Rodney Ellis, the County Commissioner that represents this area. I'm proud of all of my colleagues and the community leaders, Keith Downey in particular, for being here. I appreciate Senator Miles and also Representative Dutton being here. And Councilwoman, thank you for being here. We'll pass a resolution at Commissioner's Court this week. I suspect the city will probably do the same thing. I appreciate Senator Miles' leadership and Representative Dutton. They put in legislation continuously to try to give the state more of an ability to stop projects like this in neighborhoods like this one. I know back when I was in the legislature, I'd put it in periodically, and one time I didn't put it in. Senator Miles and the lobbyist said, won't you put it in again so I could kill it? I never got a hearing. You came close, and we're very proud of you for doing that. Lower income communities of color in Harris County have borne the brunt of corporate recklessness for far too long. The painful truth is that polluters count on environmental justice communities and their elected officials not to fight back. The bottom line depends on dumping waste in backyards like this one, putting pollutants in your water, and in this case, putting concrete dust in your lungs. Today we face a new law. A concrete batch plant is proposed to be situated across from a county hospital, one of the highest asthma burden zip codes in the entire city of Houston. It serves some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And as Dr. Porter said, we hope the voters give us the ability to build a brand new city. This is okay. Only by we know today that it's all third. Thank you. New party or to their the meeting this plan and down. I want also air in this and the cool would still the others music and the in and as could protect human old village make money. Thank you.
This we to me right in 2017, called back on step one right outside of the railroad. This is not anymore. Not all said how wrote that TCEQ is doing more representation of industry than protecting the citizens of Texas. Earlier this year, I voted against the reappointment of the Commissioner John Niermeyer of the Texas Commission of Environmental Equality. Commissioner Niermeyer and I met during my first session in the Senate in 2017. And during our meeting, I want y'all to know, I presented him with a map from TCEQ data showing the location of facilities in Senate District 13. We both agreed that for decades, minority communities have been the victims of environmental racism. And these facilities disproportionately located in predominantly African American and Hispanic neighborhoods, just like the one we're in this afternoon. Despite this, Nierman continued to allow facilities to grow unchecked in minority communities. My constituents already know this history because they've lived it. Senate District 13 is plagued by the legacy of environmental racism with pollutants in their water and their air, created by, and also a cancer cluster just a few miles away from here, in case you didn't know. Listen, I will continue to fight, along with this team, and file legislation to require TCEQ to consider cumulative impact on polluting facilities in the area on these public health areas and to deny permits because the cumulative effect of such neighborhood and facilities are high. Right now, I have little to no confidence that TCEQ to do their job in protecting this community. So I'm calling on Texas Coastal Materials to do the right thing and pull this permit application and find a more suitable location to build their concrete crushing plant. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Harold Dutton. I represent the community that this hospital is in and that this proposed facility is in. And more especially, I live about a mile from here. But here we are again. And I was standing there thinking when I listened to all my colleagues, here we are again. I remember, and I'm probably the longest serving elected official here, but we've had these meetings before. We have tried to change TCEQ because the one thing we recognized is that when government was supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, TCEQ has been for the industry, by the industry, and of the industry.
And paid for.
Yes, and that's been crazy. Let me explain one thing why it's so crazy. TCEQ, we're going to have a public hearing on this permit. The law says, we've had these public hearings before. I have watched TCEQ sit there and listen to all the people at the public hearings. And I wondered why they never took notes, why they didn't record it. And I asked, why are you not doing anything with this? What are you going to do with these comments? What I was told was nothing. The law doesn't require them to do anything with it. The law requires them to pay attention to what they quote as the science. Well, the science, TCEQ doesn't have the ability, and even though I've been challenging it for 20 and 30 years, they still don't have the capability to analyze the cumulative effects of permits. They don't even attempt to do it. And they've told me over and over again in the legislation I filed that we don't have to, that we don't have the capability to do that. Well, the truth is other states do it. Other states have gotten it done right. And so you have to wonder why TCEQ. And let me say this in closing. You know, we're here about environmental racism in Northeast Houston. But we could talk about all kinds of racism in Northeast Houston. We could talk about housing discrimination. We could talk about education discrimination. We could talk about senior discrimination. We could talk about just about everything. We're not here today because we're announcing a new supermarket going to open within a mile of here. That's not what we're talking about. Every time we've had these, we have had to talk about somebody and some state agency doing something that was harmful to the people in Northeast Houston. And we need to stop it. We need to figure out how to make sure that we join our efforts to change the government's mindset when it comes to Northeast Houston. Nobody ever had a problem locating things that were harmful to people in Northeast Houston. Government just never had a problem doing that. And I think it's time out. And we ought to be standing shoulder and shoulder, arm in arm, to not only talk about this environmental racism, but to talk about the whole racism in terms of the government attitude toward Northeast Houston. And so I hope that this permit gets pulled. I hope this company will decide that, wait a minute, we don't need to be there. Because I can tell you that if the people in Northeast Houston don't want them there, then I don't know why in the heck they would still insist on being there. So, but then thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Tarsha Jackson, and I represent District B. I want to thank Christian Menifee for bringing us together today to show us that we are united in protecting our communities against polluters. I want to thank Keith Downing, community leader, for sounding the alarm. You know, he came to council and just, let the city council know the importance for the city to step up in this particular situation. This proposed concrete batch plant could not be proposed in a worse place, a mere 440 yards from LBJ Hospital, a hospital where people come to heal. Polluting the air would matter, that we know cause lung and heart problems is attacking already vulnerable people. And I'm frankly sick and tired of these batch plants. It seems like we're fighting batch plants every week in District B, and it's time out for that. And so maybe in the past, these companies felt that they can get away with it, but today, you see, we have a united front. They're not going to get away with this. We're going to stand firm. We're going to yell at the top of our lungs that we do not want these black batch plants in our community. And so I will not rest assured that Texas Coastal Materials, we're asking that they withdraw their permit, and we're asking that TCEQ step up, and hold these companies accountable. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Downey. I'm Super Neighborhood President for Cashmere Garden, also Vice Chair of the Super Neighborhood Alliance. I want to thank all of our elected officials who joined force here. The Congresswoman, Mr. Miles, we have Harold Dutton, the county attorney, the district attorney, the mayor, and the city council. Why us? Why again? I got a call this morning from a resident. A gentleman asked me, Mr. Downey, what's going on with that, they call it concrete batch. I say it's rock crushing. They say same thing. And why us? Why again? This is environmental racism, not only in Cashmere Garden, in 5th Ward, in Houston Garden, in Trinity Garden, in Northeast Houston, as has been eloquently put before me, that no matter what the subject matter is, do you ever notice when it comes to resources, we don't have pins in the map in Northeast, but when it comes to environmental racism, educational racism, when it comes to being in a food desert, you can put a pin in the map and say Northeast Houston. This is wrong and disrespectful to the community. All across the board, the community is saying there's not just one community. The area, the region is saying this is wrong for this facility to come here behind an existing concrete batch plant, behind an existing aggregate yard, along a walking trail. The last I checked, a 16-wheel and an ambulance don't go side by side. People are trying to get to the hospital. You put $2 billion into a bond that will pass to expand this facility. And you got to pass a dump truck to get to the hospital full of rocks. You're putting people in danger. You're putting communities in danger. And we're saying no to this facility. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to close out with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Before she comes up, I just want to say that, you know, the Congresswoman has been a trusted partner on fighting back against environmental racism. We've been dealing with an issue with concrete batch plants in the TCEQ, where my office filed a lawsuit against them for failing to enforce permit standards. We then went and filed a Title VI complaint, which was accepted by the EPA, and the Congresswoman has been there by our side every single step of the way. She also represents this area. So without further ado, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Thank you, County Attorney, very much. We may all have any number of titles, but look at us as real people with our homes, our families' homes in this very area and other parts of Harris County. We're known in the nation and in the EPA for having the largest number of concrete batch plants. That's our definition. Even with an agency called TCEQ. And having gone to that agency as a member of Congress, but as a real person fighting concrete batch plants in these areas, I felt like a real person, if you will. Not an elected official, Senator Miles, Commissioner Ellis, and Judge Hidalgo, Dr. Porce, District Attorney, Mayor's Office, and certainly our County Attorney, which we are so grateful for, and others, and our very hardworking council member, Councilmember Jackson. We've gone. We've tried to speak, tried to hold it up, and we certainly were treated like we were just there for entertainment sometimes. People are dying. They come here because they're sick. They came here during the pandemic. They were sick. And a concrete crushing facility is the same. So Menifee, I was delayed because I called and I was on the phone with the EPA. I'm not going to fool around with this. We can't fool around with this. People are dying. You know what they said to me immediately? Oh, that is worse. Concrete crushing Senator, is worse. So I've immediately asked for them. I've given the name of the company. You've got to get engaged because people will die. The pollutants are worse. The proximity is unbelievable. We can all walk 440 yards, I think it is. There's another concrete batch. Mr. Downey, thank you. You live, you work, you fight in this community. So first, I'd like TCEQ to do the right thing. I know that within the regulatory scheme, one would argue, or they would argue, their jurisdiction. And I would argue that they have a number of procedures that could put this on pause. They're having an informational meeting that they say if we come, it will not be on the record. That means people from Houston, Commissioner Ellis and others may bus people up and it will not count. I've left Washington and flown from Houston, then to Austin to speak, which may generate now, but here's what my bottom line is at this point. One, I'd like the good neighbor theory to be in place. One, I'd like the company to withdraw their application. This is a big county, but it's a big state. And any place that is not around populated persons, this community is richly filled with a diverse community and heavily Hispanic and African American. It's a historic community. The names of it are just part of Houston. Northeast, different neighborhoods are part of Houston, and they're filled with working families and struggling families. They're filled with families whose children and others have asthma, grew up with asthma. So I'm asking the company, first of all, the good neighbor policy is to withdraw the application. Then secondly, I'm asking for TCEQ to use limited powers to suspend, to pause, and with their ability of inquiry, because they're going to argue what information they can seek, it doesn't hurt them to write a letter and ask for more details about the ultimate impact. Even if the company does not provide them with pollutant numbers, we can get pollutant numbers. We're sitting in a health mecca. But we need to have that, and we need the Texas Department of Health agency to be engaged as well, to point to them and tell them you need to do something. And finally, just for Texas Coastal to know, I am, and I can't judge what my county attorney, but he is an able counselor and litigator, and so he might be ruminating about another action with the federal government, but I am immediately asking them to target this issue. And as I was on the phone, the last thing they said to me is, so what's the name of the company? And when I leave here, I will be back on the phone with them. I believe in business and jobs. We all do. We are fighting in our respective places and future places for jobs and businesses. We want our communities to be richly blessed with various companies that would bring jobs to the community. We don't want to die while we're doing it. And there are certain companies that are clearly almost impossible to survive. Listen to my raspy voice. It's not my normal voice. You just can't overcome air that's not the quality it should be. And you're going to make this worse. I want to thank all of those who are here. I want to be able to indicate my office's support and the fact that we will be calling on the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States government, and we will ask for the good neighbor policy, for the company Texas Coastal Materials to withdraw, and we'll ask TCEQ to give us a little bit more attention through an inquiry of information that you would seek from, and you can term the inquiry as you so desire, but a letter indicating more data. Dr. Portia, let me thank you for the work that is done in this great hospital, in this neighborhood. We're all working to make sure that this bond and the ultimate impact is greater service for this neighborhood, greater care for our constituents, a responsive, expanded medical footprint, and I'm glad that you're here to say that these pollutants kill, make your work much more difficult. And I conclude my remarks. In this hospital are employees. They come from different places. They too are real people, and they have their own series of medical challenges. They're coming here to work, and as they come to work, they will be impacted by this plant. Let's do the right thing. But for now, I'm doing the fighting thing. I want the EPA to step in. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I want to take the opportunity to recognize Ms. Deidre Fontaine, who's here on behalf of Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, as well as County Commissioners Adrian Garcia, Leslie Briones, and Tom Ramsey. The environmental issues has been one of the issues on Commissioners Court that is traditionally, when my office wants to bring an action, we've received unanimous support because protection of human health in all areas throughout Harris County is not a partisan issue, it's a people issue. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Has anyone had an opportunity to speak with Texas Coast Materials or the TCEQ? Have you guys had any positive feedback or any success at all?
My office has been in communication with the outside lawyer for Texas Coastal Materials. I've reached out to try to set up a meeting with them just to, as the Congresswoman mentioned, try to push the good neighbor theory. Look, you're right across the street from a hospital. This is a big county put in other places. We've seen some instances in the past where companies have been willing to do the right thing and have withdrawn their application. But the real problem here is that TCEQ has been so beholden to industry that they are empowering folks to not care if they're destroying communities, to not care which elected officials are standing up here, community members. So you can definitely bet on the fact that we will be in constant communication with them, trying to get them to do the right thing. And we talk to the TCEQ all the time. That is, same song, same dance, different year.
Is there any legislative work being done to maybe try to change the jurisdiction on where these companies can build? Say for instance, like can't build a 5 school. I don't know what the jurisdiction is for this particular area, but is there anything being done to try to stop companies?
5 seconds. So before I turn it over to the senator and the representative, I want to make very clear that there is not a legislative session in the Texas legislature that these two and several other Democrats aren't fighting for these exact types of laws. And in fact, I went out there to testify one go around, and it was a measure that would have allowed local government to block it. Every single speaker was in support of that measure. There was only one speaker in opposition. It was the Texas Concrete Association. Didn't make it out of committee.
And not only did I personally file with the help of Representative Dutton for this past session, 4 bills this past session. One of them got a hearing, one of them got out, but it was never brought to the floor. Okay. In addition to last session, the past session before was sunset, when every agency has to justify their existence. We brought 5 busloads of citizens in from the Houston-Harris County to testify.
That's right.
To testify, okay, on TCEQ. And still with that, they were able to continue. We even tried to shut down and minimize the permitting length. Because right now, when they get a permit, it's going to be for 10 years. What's to say happens in this community in 10 years? We tried to get one just to limit the operation to 5 years. Yeah. No hearings.
And let me just add, the rule says that you have to live within 440 yards of a project. What I did is I found a bill that said that irrespective of the 440 yards, if you are the state representative or the state senator for that area, you were an affected person, which means you could ask for a contested case hearing.
Excellent.
The Concrete Association, everybody fought that bill such that I would say we got half a hearing, okay? And that's about it.
And it's every year. It's been every year for 16 years for me.
Right.
Every year for 30?
30 years we've been fighting this battle because it's been the same consequence from TCEQ.
Mr. Menifee, could I ask?
Yep.
Now, given the location of one of those plants, it's 601 Lockwood across from the Sheriff's Department, where their homicide division is housed there, a big administrative Harris County Sheriff's Department building at 601 Lockwood. Given all the ramifications, the unpleasantries, the toxicity, the noise, how could this even go to how could they even be allowed to pursue a permit like that in this area?
It's because the legislator has written the rules of the game to be rigged for industry. As I mentioned, there's not a single elected official up here or community member with Mr. Downey that hasn't seen this exact thing before, that hasn't fought this fight exactly before. Every single legislative session, folks are putting up bills to try to beat some of this back. Every single plant that is tried to be put out here, we're filing a lawsuit or a Title VI complaint, and we're partnering with the Congresswoman to try to fight back. Or we're partnering with the City of Houston. Every time, just about every single time, there's been a few exceptions, but just about every single time, the permit application is approved. And I think the issue is this agency is toothless. The TCEQ doesn't have any teeth, and it's because the members of the legislature are bought and paid for by industry, which continues to invest in them and ensures that any measures that are going to be protective of human health are beat back.
Please remember what I said earlier. Their own consultants, TCQ's own consultants doing Sunset, wrote that the industry perception from the people was that they work for the industry and not for the citizens for which they should be working for. Their own consultant said that. That's how bad it is.
That's their word.
Christian,
Hey.
Ms. Jackson Lee mentioned the informational meeting coming up. Has there been any discussion of a potential case hearing or any meeting of consequence with the TCEQ on this particular question?
So I think the first important thing to note is that this December 7 meeting wasn't even set to happen. The TCEQ wasn't going to do it. It took the work of folks like Keith Downey, Representative Dutton, Senator Miles, as well as Air Alliance Houston and other folks, my office, Harris Health, Pollution Control, to put pressure on the TCEQ to even have this meeting in the first place. And what ultimately was negotiated was a meeting where people can come and have their voice heard but not recorded, right? But not put in the record. And so we're going to continue to fight on that. My office is always, and my team told me to be careful about what we promise here, but my office is always evaluating options. I didn't run for this office to sit on the sidelines. I didn't run for this office to allow industry to stop a mud hole in the communities that I care about. So we're always evaluating our legal options. And you can rest assured that if there is an opportunity for us to challenge this in a meaningful way, we will.
A follow-up question, is there any, in a case like this, would there be any grounds for a legal potential lawsuit?
So we have a pending lawsuit against the TCEQ right now, and they're on the standard permit for concrete batch plants. And what we saw was that in partnering with the Congresswoman and filing a Title VI complaint with Lone Star Legal Aid and some community folks, we've gotten the TCEQ to the table. And right now they're considering their amended standard permit for concrete batch plants. We'll use every single tool in our arsenal to try to coerce the same behavior with these concrete crushing plants.
May I ask one final follow-up?
Yeah, sure.
I know that in the consideration this past year around regulations for concrete batch plants, there's been for the first time some mention or consideration of cumulative impacts, but that seems to be limited to concrete batch plants. Something like a concrete crushing site wouldn't necessarily fall within that. Do you see an avenue for, do you see any potential that those considerations would be expanded either through the ongoing lawsuits or through separate advocacy?
Yeah, I'm more than confident that our elected officials here at the federal, state, county, and city governments are going to push for that outcome. I serve on the EPA's Local Government Advisory Committee. Cumulative impacts is one of the major environmental justice issues that we've been studying. So we're going to push for that, not just through the lawsuit, but also with the Congresswoman's advocacy, with the EPA, with my own advocacy, and then obviously the senator and the representative have made clear that this won't be their first time pushing for consideration of cumulative impact. But yeah, we will push to expand it in a way that's going to meaningfully protect these communities from all types of facilities that have these types of impacts.
Can I say
Yeah,
one?
absolutely.
Let me first of all thank County Attorney, but also mentioning the County Judge and the Commissioners. This is the 4th largest county in the nation. It's a well-known national county. And the idea that we're standing here in Northeast Houston fighting this, beware the rest of Harris County. Beware. Because what we really have is we're under siege. That's what the point should be made. We're under siege. We don't have other counties in the state raising up. They gravitate here. Our county is becoming, as our city, more populated. We want it to be more popular. We welcome people. And with this open door policy, we're killing people, but we're killing our economic development, housing, recreation. And I asked the question, why are we being targeted? We're not getting any help from the state. When we tried to do creosote in the 5th Ward, Representative Dutton, County Attorney, Senator Miles, all instrumental in this, we had to go to the Texas Department of Health. But we went to TCEQ. But we had to go, we asked them, just give it to TDH so we can get moving. So this press conference is here on Kelly at LBJ. But it should be noted, and you can do your research, the county is under siege, under a state of affairs where everything is coming here. And that is unfair, and the state needs to help us. Our local officials are fighting, just as they said. They need to help us. This is the economic engine of this state, Harris County, Houston. You lose out if you get us to be known as the dumping grounds.
Okay, we'll take one more question. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.